In the Shadows, Bringing Light to Mental Health Disclosure.
By Kelsey Duff.
And Blake Greger. Let's get started. So, for our research project, we wanted to answer the question: how, if at all, does a college student with a mental illness communicate and disclose their disability with fellow collegians? Well, for this we use qualitative methods in order to gain a more in-depth understanding and focus on a phenomenological approach in order to focus on describing what participants had in common and the interpretive approach to better understand their shared experiences.
In order to gain participants, we utilized the snowball sample effect. For this study, we conducted semi-structured individual interviews using open questions. We obtained a total of 6 participants, 5 females and 1 male. All participants were students at a small university who have a mental illness. For our analysis of the data, there were 3 phases: constant comparison, insight, intuition, and impression to identify the data, and then we coded significant statements. These codes resulted into these 2 themes: 1, privacy rules and disclosure management, and 2, masking the illness.
So let's dive into our findings. Within our first theme, privacy rules and disclosure management, through our data, we found a connection in communication styles with that of the communication privacy management theory. Communication privacy management theory, or CPM, explains the nuances with how individuals decide to disclose private information and what happens when this information becomes co-owned. We directly noticed that participants had 3 set privacy rules that helped manage whether or not they would disclose to other collegians about their mental disability. The first rule was that participants felt it was easier to disclose their disability when collegians had their own background knowledge about mental health. One participant describes it as, "I enjoy talking to some people who are knowledgeable about mental illness. It can be really hard to talk about when they don't understand very much about mental health, especially since it is something that is really delicate and special to me." The more the participants saw their collegians express an understanding of mental illness, they were more likely to open up.
The second rule was that participants were more likely to open up about their illness with individuals who also had a mental health issue, or try to disclose about their mental issue through sharing selective attributes that go along with their disability. A participant stated, "I kind of like jokingly say things I feel, like, well, I'm so depressed I just cry all night and laugh," or "I just cried on the phone with my mom for 3 hours, haha." The participant is showing that she is trying to disclose her attributes in her own way without fully disclosing her disability. Another participant shared, "I only share that I have depression to those who also have a mental disability. They understand where I'm coming from and what I need to hear. I didn't want to hear, 'It's gonna be okay, working out helps.' I wanted to hear, 'What's gonna make you feel the best? I am here.'" People who shared the illness and carried similar attributes of the emotion she was feeling were more likely to understand the emotional state the participant was in.
The third rule for participants is that as their relationships with their collegians had grown and developed over time, the more likely they would be able to decide whether or not to share about their disability. One participant claimed that, "The closer I become with some of my college friends or classmates, the more I can gauge if they are going to think that me having a disability is fine, or make it a big deal. They have to prove themselves to me first, just to show that they are a good friend or a good person. It honestly just depends on time." For many individuals, the more time they had gotten to know their fellow collegians, the easier it was to decide whether or not the individual should be able to co-own the knowledge regarding that individual's mental health.
Our second theme is masking the illness. We noticed that participants wear different masks depending on the situation on how they would or would not disclose if they had a disability. We found this to directly connect with the face theory. In particular, the looking glass self, in which is the view that is, how I want to be seen is how I will act. With the face theory, there are 2 stages, and for these individuals, 2 masks.
The first mask revolves around the public self and how individuals see one another. We put this mask on in order to be perceived by others in a particular way. Those individuals with a mental illness in the classroom setting strive to present their best self in order to mask from their peers any possibility that they could have a mental disability. One participant stated, I wanted people to think that I was so upbeat and bubbly all the time. I didn't want them to think I had problems or was depressed. It felt like I was wearing a mask.
Another individual shared, I think for me, some students have these assumptions that I was the smart, popular girl who had it together. I was always striving to meet their expectations. If I said I had a disability, I felt like I was letting down their image of who I was supposed to be. Participants wanted to be presented and perceived in a positive light, almost as if they had to overcommit to being perfect and smart in order to mask their disability. They wanted to rid any ideas in their peers' minds that they are disabled so they would not be treated differently.
With face theory, there's also the private self. When participants were backstage and not having to perform in the classroom setting, they were able to let their guard down, more specifically around these collegians who share the same disability. One participant stated, "It was nice to be around people also with mental illnesses because I could be myself. I could feel and show my real emotions." Having college friends who were going through similar issues enabled them to have more agency to be their true, authentic self. It allowed them to become more comfortable with sharing about their disability and the various struggles that can come with it as a college student to those individuals.
In conclusion, our participant truly sums up the basic findings in our research. I realized so many other people have a mental illness. Once you open up about it, you realize it's all around you. Furthermore, the more individuals opened up to a fellow collegians and friends at their university, the more they realize how they are not alone and do not have to hide behind their disability.
Some of the limitations within our research were that there were more female than males, a need for more participants in order to achieve saturation, and because it was a sensitive phenomenon to talk about, it could have hindered how much the individual was willing to disclose. We would love to see future research done amongst focus groups. Seeing that our data has shown individuals open up more with those who also have a mental illness, we may find more information about communication amongst collegians through this type of interviewing. Additionally, we would love to seek for a study that focuses on the comparison or the possibility of growth from a freshman to senior collegian and how that impacts their possible privacy rules and if they still seek to mask their illness.
Overall, by bringing light to mental health disclosure through our research, we hope college students can remove the negative stigmas that come with a mental illness and develop a deeper understanding of how to communicate with their fellow classmates who have mental disabilities.